So let's go back to what I said. Anytime you see either one of these symbols, whether it's less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, you're going to shade. You're either going to shade on a number line, and how do we know we're going to shade on a number line? There's no y variable. No y variable, we shade on a number line. If there is a y variable, then we're going to shade on the xy plane. Okay? So, let's take a look at what we have. So example 1 says graph. Now there is one way to graph. We can go through all of the work that we did last week where we had to find the vertex, the x-intercepts, and all that stuff. However, me and Mr. Davies kept the calculator secret away from me, okay? So let me show you how you can graph this on the calculator. How does that work? Well, to graph, you got to watch carefully. I'm going to go through this. Okay, I'm going to go turn it on, okay? Clear everything out, okay? What we're looking for is the y equals. The y equals button is right there. So we're going to go right to, on the calculator, the y equals button, okay? Now, I already have a button. I already have something in there. I'm going to clear that out because what I want to type in is this, for right now, y equals negative 2x squared minus 4x plus 6, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go negative. I'm going to use the negative sign, negative 2, and the x variable is right here. That's the x variable. You need to push this button. That's the x variable. It says x, t, theta, n. You just need to push that button and x will pop up. I need x squared, so my squared button is right there. There's my squared. Okay. Subtract 4x plus 6. Okay. I want to see thumbs up from everybody. Okay, thumbs up. If you are not here, I'm waiting for you. Jackie, are you thumbs up? Okay, guys, are you thumbs up? Haley? Every thumbs up, okay? Now, the next thing that's really important in doing this is the window. The window. You see, if I were to put a graph right now on my calculator, I don't even see it. Somebody has made my axes so big that I can't even see my graph on it. So I need to fix this window here. So this window here fits this window there, right? So to do my window, what I've got in this graph looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like it's negative 5 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like it's negative 5 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe 12, okay? So the window I want to put in my calculator needs to match the window I have on my graph. So I push window, right there, window. You see it? Now, the last person uses calculator, the window was 0 to 1500. Way too big. We want to go negative 5 to 5. Does that make sense? We want to go negative 5 to 5, so I'm going to go negative 5 to 5, all right? So now, I've squeezed it in, and that's all I'm going to see. Scales. I'm going by ones. All right, so scales, I'm going by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So scales by 1. Okay, that's already there. Now, minimum. I'm going all the way up on this calculator to 115,000. That's way too big. But what we want is a negative 5 to 12. Okay. Now, if I push graph, which is that button right there, I should see my graph, okay? There it is. Now there's a few things that are kind of nice for me. So remember how hard it was finding x-intercepts? 1, 2, 3. There's a x-intercept at negative 3. 1, there's an x-intercept at 1. Okay. Now my vertex. There's a trace button. There's a trace button. And when I push my trace button, it's going to move the cursor up and down until I can figure out what the vertex is. So if I push trace, I can roll this calculator along until I'm right to the top. Just right about there. Now the calculator isn't going to get exact, but I'm pretty sure the vertex is at negative 1, 8, okay? Negative 1, 8, okay? And I can try and put in negative 1, and sure, there it is. Negative 1, 8. Right at the top. You guys agree with that? So negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? I already know the y-intercept is 6. I know that. I don't need the calculator to tell me. I know the y-intercept is 6, so I can go up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got another point here. Okay, how am I doing? Now I'm going to draw on the graph. Before I draw it all the way in, I got to be careful of a couple of things, all right? I'm going to go back to this. I'm actually going to do some shading. It has a little equal sign here. If it didn't, I would make a dashed parabola. I'll say it again. If it did not have a little equal sign here, I'd make a dashed parabola. But because it has a little equal sign here, I'm going to make it a nice solid line. So I'm going to draw in my parabola, okay? Right? Now, we need to shade. We need to shade because of that symbol right there. So we have to be able to read this correctly. It says y is less than. So to be less than, we have to be under the parabola. We have to be less than the parabola. So we're going to shade everything. Everything under the parabola. So I'm going to take my marker and I'm just going to shade every single point under the parabola. Because it says less than. That's easy. Isn't that easy, Jackie? You don't have a calculator? You don't have a paper. That's right. Got you covered. Right? Now, let's take a look at, was that easy? You just let the calculator do the work, okay? Not only that, but if you have a retake to take, then graphing is going to be pretty easy because I just showed you how to graph, right? Now, let's look at example number 2. Okay, in example number 2, there is no y, right? So it's going to be on a number line. Okay, there's no y. It's going to be on a number line. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay. So let's see if we can solve. So if I bring over the 3, because what I want to find on my number line are border points. I want to find border points on my number line. So I bring over the 3. I'll have an x squared minus a 6x plus 5, right? We agree if I subtract 3, I get a 5. I can factor. I'm looking for my border point, so I want to factor. And I'll get a parentheses, 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 parentheses. I'll get an x minus 5, x minus 1, okay? Negative 5 times negative 1 make a positive 5. But when I add a negative 5 with a negative 1, I get a negative 6. Okay, so then my border points really are x equals 5, right? Because we'd solve it. And x equals 1 when I solve it, because I'm going to set it equal to 0 and solve it, right? I skipped the step, but you guys are getting pretty good at this, okay? So then, I'm going to put a border point at 1, and I'm going to put a border point at 5. I'm going to go with open circles, all right? I need an open dot on both because there's no equal sign, right? So open circle, open circle. I'd have a closed dot if there was an equal sign there, okay? Now, where do I shade? So now we got something new. I just showed you something kind of cool. So let's think about this. If I were to graph this parabola, graph this one right here, if I were to graph this, just on the calculator. Even though it's a number line, I want to find out when the graph is less than 0, right? Or when it's negative, all right? So let's check that out. So I'm going to go ahead and do my graph, clear. I'll go my x squared minus 6x plus 5, okay? And I want to push graph. Okay. Now, I might want to see a little bit more of my graph. If I want to see a little bit more of my graph, let's push the graph this way a little bit. So let's go back to my window, and let's move the graph over a little bit, okay? So if I go out of my window, and on my window, I might take it over to, instead of 5, how about we go over to maybe 10? You okay with that? So I can see a little bit more of it. There we go. Now we are only going to put this on a number line. So technically, there is a number line right there. You guys see the number line? See the number line? Where is this graph below 0? Between there and there, isn't it? If it's below 0, that's less than 0. So where am I going to shade on my number line? Right in there. Isn't this easy? So I'm just going to shade there. Man, we're not even doing any math, hardly.
You just have to color.
Yeah, and so now it does say write in interval notation, okay? So interval notation, parentheses 1, comma 5. I use parentheses because I've got an open circle at 5. I use a parentheses because I have an open circle at 1, not brackets, okay? All right, how about example 2? Okay, to example 2, first, let's bring over the 1. So I have a 2x squared minus a 5x plus 0, right? All right? So I just brought over the 1. I needed to make it equal to 0. You need to make it equal to 0. Okay, this is a different kind of factoring. This is called common factoring, okay? What do they have in common?
X.
They have an x. I'd have a 2x minus 5 left over. Set it equal to 0 because we're looking for border points, okay? So, okay, I can solve that. That's easy. I would have an x equals 0 and a 2x minus 5 equals 0, right? That one's already solved for. So one border point is at 0. Plus 5, divide by 2, I get a 2.5, right? So again, there's no y variable, right? So it's a number line. There's no y variable, so it's going to be a number line. I'm going to have a border point at 0 and a border point at 2.5. I'm going to use a solid dot. Solid dot because it says equal to, greater than or equal to, so I put a solid dot here at 0 and a solid dot here at 2.5. All right? Now, what am I going to do? Am I going to shade? So if I graph this, right, I should be able to see when it's greater than 0. That's above it, right? It's above it. So let's graph this one here. Let's graph the one that's equal to 0. So again, I go back to my calculator. Y equals, clear that one out. Let's go 2x squared, subtract 5x, and I graph it. See what we get. All right? Now, it says greater than 0, which means above, right? Above the x-axis. Where's above the x-axis? Here, right? And here. So if I'm thinking about a number line, right? This is a number line. It's going to be greater than 0 there and there, isn't it? All of these x values that I shaded are x values that make the graph bigger than 0, right? These values, these x values will make the graph bigger than 0. These x values will make the graph bigger than 0. So on my number line, that's what I want to shade. So my number line, I'm going to shade this region and this region, right? Now, awesome. Great job on the number line, but we want to put it in interval notation, right? So, this arrow goes to negative infinity. This arrow goes to positive infinity. So interval notation is going to be parentheses, negative infinity, comma 0, bracket, or bracket 2.5 comma infinity, parentheses, because you can't get to infinity, okay? This isn't that bad, is it? You let the calculator do the work for us. We have to do a little bit of factoring to get the border points. Okay, ready to turn the page? Okay. Now, travel business earns profits by the number of tourists they can book. The equation P of N, profit with the number of items they sell, number of tourists, is negative 25x squared plus 100x minus 3,000. Models their profits. Okay, why is this a quadratic model? Why is this thing a quadratic model?
It's got
It has an x squared in it. Because of the x squared, okay? How many people are needed for a profit of at least 5,000, okay? So let's make sure this is then at least 5,000. So we've got to go our negative 25x squared plus 100x minus 3,000 has got to be at least 5,000, okay? So I made sure it's going to be greater than or equal to 5,000. If we're less than 5,000, we very well might lose money, right? Okay. Now this seems kind of hard to solve, doesn't it? But we might be able to graph it and get the answer from the graph. So first of all, let's bring this 5,000 over, okay? So a negative 25x squared plus a 100x minus 8,000, okay? There's no y value, so we're going to have to use a number line, right? This is greater than or equal to 0, okay? All right, if I'm going to graph this, I'm going to have to think about my window. Okay, I'm going to have to think about a window for sure. 8,000 is going to have to be in the window, right? So I'm thinking pretty big numbers. So I'm going to go to my window, and I don't know exactly what to put my window is, but I'm going to play around with my window, okay? So, first of all, let's just go 0 to maybe 50. I don't know. If I'm wrong, I'll change it, okay? I need to make a profit, so I'm going to use some pretty big numbers, okay? So I'm going to go maybe negative 10,000 because of that to maybe 10,000. Now if I'm wrong, you know what I do? I try other numbers. And how do I know other numbers? Let's take a look at what I have. So here's the window I used. And the only reason I used these big numbers was because of the 8,000. Okay, does that make sense? So let's graph. Alright, so what does this show? It shows me that I'm going to have to squeeze this significantly, right? Because I'm not seeing anything in here. So let's change my y values maybe, and we'll go from, say, 0 to, I don't know, let's try something different, okay? So let's go to my window, and let's go to my window and change it from 0 to, oh, I don't know, maybe 5,000. Alright? Still not seeing what I want to see, right? So let's squeeze it some more.
You didn't change the graph.
Oh, Wandra, negative 25x. No wonder it's not working. Plus 100x. Did my other window work? Graph. Now I'm not seeing it at all. I know 8,000 will give me the negative 8. Whoops, let's make this negative 10,000. Graph. Well, there it is. There's part of it right there. Let's go that way. Window. Let's make that negative 50. Oh. Well. I don't think these guys are going to make a profit at all, are they? Interesting. I wonder if this is a positive number, if that would help. I'm getting none. Seeing this business is out of business, aren't they? Wow, my guess is if this was a positive 25, we might get a better answer. Let me delete that. Oh yeah, that's a much better answer. Let's answer it this way. Take out the negative, okay? Take out the negative. Take out the negative, and now let's look at it, okay? Here's my, okay, there's my graph. There's my window. Alright. And there's my graph. And if I look at the graph, okay, you guys with me now that I fixed it? Okay, let's look at this graph. This part of my graph, all of this part of my graph, I don't want. I don't want that part of the graph at all, for two reasons. One, okay? One, this is negative people. Hold on. Hello? Who? I've got Jackie Guzman. She might be in Downs' class, which I'm kind of teaching both. How's that for an answer? Right, that's going to be, yeah, right, yes. Bye. Okay, let's get back to this. Sorry, you guys. So, let's go back. I'm going to throw out all of these values. First of all, 2 reasons. One, this is negative profit, right? And this is negative people. Okay? So what I want is from here over. So what I need to know is what the value of this point is. Okay, clear. So let's find out. Let's find out what that point is. So if we go to trace, and I'm right about there. So it looks like about 10 people. You guys about 10 people? So we're going to need to service about 10 or more people, okay? And on a number line, 0, 10, and we'll go solid dot. Okay? How's that? Yeah, I'm going to have to fix that. So, and stop.